All right, the wheel set. Okay, this is one of my favorite parts of the bike. These are pretty much the fattest road bike wheels and tires I've seen.
Fattest in like internal clearance, right?
In terms of internal clearance, right? So they are right now on a gravel bike. So therefore, we can actually, make use of all of the tire clearance. And they are a custom wheel set.
Yeah.
So let me talk you through the components. First of all, it's the Light Bicycle WG44 rims. They are actually meant to be gravel rims, but because I have them on what I use as a road bike, basically they are my road wheel set, right? Let's talk about the width and the depth. Okay, so 44 millimeters of depth, which is not that deep.
No, not at all.
But they do have one which is 55 millimeters, the newest version. So I think that's if you want to get a nice aero and wide wheel set, that's probably the rim to get. Probably not for gravel, I would say, because I think gravel was moving further and further away from, I guess, that particular width, and they're getting very, very wide.
Right.
So that's 44 millimeters of depth, 30 millimeters of internal width, 38 millimeters of outer width right at the tire rim interface.
Yep.
And they go out to 40 millimeters at the broadest point.
So not exactly the most aerodynamic wheel you can get, lah. It's far from it, but.
Well, yeah, and I guess there are, if you look at some of the testing around, I think every millimeter or so translates into 2 or 3 watts or thereabouts. I'll have to look into. I have to go and check. But yes, so it's not the most aero, but it is obviously very, very comfortable. Still on the rims, you got me the flyweight version. Thank you very much.
No problem.
So for those who don't know, with Light Bicycle, a lot of their different rims, they have a normal version and a flyweight version for actually quite a reasonable premium.
Yep.
And you charged me for the normal ones. You gave me the flyweight ones.
That was just for you. You should have seen that. But don't worry about it. Everyone knows we're homies, man.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And so those ones are 395 grams per rim. So pretty light for such wide rims.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about, I guess the most logical thing is to talk about the tires, right? Because the tire width then makes a huge difference to whether or not the aero.
It's a question that I wanted to ask you personally, because you've went through a few setups, with regards to tire width and the type of tires that you use, and then now you are on a very questionable 32 millimeter on a 30 millimeter internal width, which
what does questionable mean in this context?
It is pretty close to becoming what you call it, like having a flat spot if you do overinflate. So people would have questions about it, and I personally would have a question because I have not ran a setup like this before, but it did blow up kind of nice. Sorry, so I'm not saying that it blew up kind of nice. It inflated nicely. We didn't have any issues setting it up, and it rose pretty nice. I had a short ride just now. Yeah, so you?
Okay, so let's talk about the different configurations I've had on this.
Yeah.
So when I first got the bike, I got a super light wheel set. They were designed for 25 millimeter wheels. 25 millimeter tires.
Right.
And I didn't like it. I've always ridden 28 at the minimum. And so, and when I say designed for 25, I mean, if you look at the rule 105 and all that aero stuff is important. They were designed for basically 25 millimeter tires.
Right.
Quite stiff, every bump you could feel, and there were certain points where if you go over a hard bump, it really, you can feel it in your wrists.
I see your disdain for that 25.
Yeah, I mean it's rough. I'm a bigger guy, like I prefer comfort. I'm 38, dude. Like we're more than 10 years, a decade apart, right? So this is an important point for me, right? So that was obviously uncomfortable. I can see why people like it because it feels fast, right? It genuinely feels like you're going very, very quickly because you feel every bump, and to some people that sensation is what they're used to, what they've grown up on, and that's important to them, right? But I preferred comfort. So then I've changed to these tires, or these wheels, and for the tires, I went for 36 millimeter challenge tires.
Yep.
Right? They blew up to 40, which means that they're slightly wider than what you would want in terms of the whole Aero Rule 105.
Yep.
The issue I had, and they were very, very comfortable.
Oh, they were. Yeah.
But the problem is then you couldn't feel anything. Like you didn't feel like you were riding...
Barely any feedback, right?
Yeah. It's like riding on grass or carpet or you know, that sensation. Everything was dulled.
Yeah.
So very, very comfortable. But I think even for me, that kind of went a bit too far if you're riding on the roads. There was a bit too much cushioning. It was too dull. And you didn't feel fast.
Right.
I didn't really notice too much of a decrease in performance. I think some people say that there is, and I think some of the testing shows that's a little bit slower.
For sure have lah, just a little bit,
but nothing that you would notice, or nothing that if you're not actually racing you would really care about.
Yeah.
But I think the just the lack of sensation and the dullness of the overall experience was a bit too much.
Yeah.
And I mean that bothered me a little bit, but what bothered me more was, of course, we weren't meeting the rule of 105, and it was a little bit too wide, right? So I asked you for 32 millimeter tires.
Yep.
You got me the older generation of the Victoria Corsas.
Yeah, because they don't have, the new one is all tubeless, right? So, you know, a little heavier. They don't exactly have the clincher additions out yet. So you gotta request.
Yeah, we're gonna we need more wide clincher tires.
Yeah.
So when you put those on, first of all, they blew out to 36, which then if you look at the 36 to 38 at the tire rim interface, and then up to the 40, it's the perfect kind of aero profile, right? So that made me very happy. Again, although I would say obviously I could not feel a difference at all in terms of performance, but that set my mind at ease that I am, you know, now
you are following the cardinal rule
of aero performance, right? So that was number one. But two, it did make I wouldn't say a huge difference, but you definitely felt more. You can definitely feel more of the road vibrations. Not in a bad way, but it feels a bit faster.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think. So this is, I think, really up to personal preference. How
Agree.
wide your tires are,
Agree.
and how comfortable you get with them. So these, and the other difference here is that this is cotton tires, right? Whereas previously it's the normal construction. I don't know what exactly it is, but I mean, do you know what's the normal construction versus
for the Challenger?
Yeah.
The Challenger is similar to Continental, right? Yeah, if I'm not wrong. So it's not the lightest. I forgot what those tires came in at. The Challenger, do you remember?
No, but I mean,
these are lighter for sure, lah.
Yeah. So I mean, lighter tires. But and so this allowed me to feel the key difference between wider versus cotton, right? Or because people talk about supple, right?
Yeah.
And what does that mean in the context of tires, and the ride feel? So when you have wider tires, everything becomes more dull. From the initial hit to the end of the impression on your body, right?
Yep.
So for the whole time span, everything gets dulled. Whereas with cotton tires and I guess more supple tires, the initial hit is reduced. So it's kind of like you don't get the initial shock, but you do feel more of it at the back end in terms of the timeline of that impact.
I get what you mean.
Right.
I get what you mean. I think it's something that you would have to ride on for you to be able to feel the entire experience yourself. Yeah, it's hard to describe because it's so minute still, right? Ride yourself, like go get a cotton tire, you'll feel it, you'll know what we mean.
Yeah. And supple tires are just beautiful to ride, right? I mean, if you're sitting here thinking, should I get wider tires or should I get more supple tires? I would say try the more supple tires first. They really improve the compliance without materially reducing the feedback that you get from the road, which is pretty. I thought it wasn't important, but it actually turns out that it is pretty important.
It is. You do lose out on puncture protection, though. That's the only downside.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But with wider tires, you tend to get a bit more puncture protection as well because there's less, I guess, pressure at any single point because you have a larger contact patch.
Yep.
So it does kind of balance out. I haven't had a puncture on these.
No, that's good.
Except for when my rim tape failed, right? So, but that's not a
that's not a tire issue, lah. That's a
So, and I've been riding this for basically a year and a half now. Probably do about 8,000 kilometers a year. So yeah, I mean, and that's a combination of the super wide tires and these tires.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, wider on decent roads, you really reduce your chance of puncturing.
Yep.
And I think that actually segues. I know, sorry, I'm talking so much because it's my bike and I've got so much to talk about.
That's great. That is great. That is great.
That segues really nicely into the next point, which is these are not set up tubeless. Okay, and they are set up with TPU tubes. And I think that we can kind of run through the pros and cons here as well.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I tried tubeless. I think they're even better than more supple tires, as we talked about, like cotton tires, right? In terms of just giving you the road feel, but also you feel more blunted. It feels more supple and all of that. But just the faff of setting it up, right? And when you do get a puncture or if it doesn't work, it's just impossible to kind of fix up without getting sticky white liquid all over you. And I just right?
Yes.
As a bike mechanic, you understand the pain.
Yep.
Right?
Very much.
So when I kind of went back from tubeless to using TPU tubes, I mean, it's just great. It's great for me, and you can just change a tube on the side of the road without kind of sealing dripping everywhere.
Yeah.
And again, I think if you have wider tires, the puncture protection or the chance of puncture is probably a lot lower. And having, if you're thinking about, I guess the other issue I was having with the failure of the rim tape, well, even if you had sealant, it wouldn't have helped you. And in fact, it'd be worse because then you would have sealant all inside your rims, and that would be terrible.
I think it's an argument that can only be made in smaller countries or if you ride around like a dense town, because the whole point of tubeless to begin with was so that if you get a puncture, it seals it up for you, which is fantastic, except we're in Singapore. It's so densely populated. If you're riding out at a reasonable hour of the day, right, you can just pop over to a bike shop anytime, like within a few kilometers. So you don't have to go through the faff of like, having to, trying to reset up and everything. Just go over to a bike shop anytime. And if you do have a puncture, you're not far away.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and I think sealant is getting better and better.
Yeah.
I think the initial sealants which were available when tubeless first came out for road were more for mountain bikes, so designed for much lower PSI.
Yeah.
But now you've got an improved version of the Silka one, which apparently doesn't dry as quickly and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely an argument to be made for tubeless, but just not for me, number one. I think the second point is there is a weight difference, right?
Yes.
So if you're talking about the lightest possible setup, it would have to be TPU tubes.
Right.
Because you've taken 80 grams per tire off versus the butyl tubes.
Yeah.
And then also if you go with tubeless, you have the heavier tire to start with because the bead needs to be more reinforced. And also you have the issue of you have to have, I guess, let's say 50 to 100 grams of sealant, depending on how how risk averse you are.
Yep, correct.
So you add all that together, it is the lighter setup. And I think in terms of rolling resistance, typically it's tested at about 1 watt per tire. So you're kind of about 2 watts off it's probably 1 watt per tire off the latex setup, and the latex setup is 1 watt per tire off the tubeless. So you're about 4 watts total. Again, if you're not racing.
Yeah.
Yep. But
every little bit counts, right? And this is a cheap way to get some wattage out, some free wattage.
Yes,
right?
that's true. That's true. But I mean, the way I think about it, I think the other point, going back to ride feel, right, is that, so people talk about, what do you call it? Rotating mass.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that's a big point. So you have less rotating mass. I don't think rotating mass really makes that much of a difference in terms of the overall ride, but having less rotating mass makes your bike feel more agile as you accelerate and all that, right?
It's the first weight that most of us would intend to cut from first. Yeah. So always rotating mass first, everything else second.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that makes a big difference.
Yep.
Okay. So we were talking about my...
Walao. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, you're the one suffering and then listening to me rant. So thank you very much.
This is a good yap session, man. You finally get to introduce your bike to the world and why it's so crazily built.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not the craziest part, because the craziest part is actually we've got Berd spokes, right?
Yeah. So newest spokes in the market. Potentially, I haven't been too caught up in the spoke section of the market, but yeah. How do you feel? It's rope. Many people have initially had questions about it. Obviously, it's been out for a long while now. I have it on my Specialized stump jumper as well, so I love it. I have no complaints. It hasn't snapped on me. I crashed a while back. Spokes didn't snap. It's great. Yeah.
I mean, it's a really interesting point, right? Because when these came out a while back, I assume probably on the mountain bike side, right?
Yeah,
and then roadies never really looked at it until a bit more recently, I guess, because of the influence of gravel, and then and me preferring compliance and all that. I think that was interesting to me. So there is a compliance. Well, sorry, let me take a step back. In theory, there is a compliance factor.
Yes.
And in theory, there is also a weight factor. Sorry,
the weight saving ones is not a theory.
Okay,
that one is guaranteed. That is guaranteed.
Yeah. So I think your typical steel spoke will be about 5 grams per spoke.
That one is Sepim CX Red. There are a couple of titanium ones that are also around that weight, or a little less if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
And then you've got carbon ones, which are kind of at somewhere in between or closer to the Berd spokes.
Yeah, the carbon ones also not say very light, but then again,
But that's different.
Yeah,
because the carbon ones are very aero. Right?
Correct.
That's the difference here.
And they must be of certain thickness, otherwise they won't even be able to perform. They will just snap.
Yeah, exactly. So they're very, very lightweight. So that's absolutely true, and not in theory. And I think the compliance factor. Well, I mean, I think my issue is that I have such wide tires.
Yeah,
That I can't really feel them. So for those of you out there who want a review of these and about the compliance,
come build one.
I have no idea whatsoever. I mean, it'd be interesting if you built a wheel up for your, say, for example, for your Cannondale, right? For your CAD 12, was it?
No, it's a Super 6 Evo.
Okay,
yeah.
But or like if you have a very stiff bike that can only fit a certain kind of certain width in terms of tires and all that, and you're really desperate to add some compliance, and you have a lot of money, and it's a very expensive way of doing it.
Yes, so I 1000% would have Berd on my wheels, if not for the fact that they cost $1 million bucks each.
Yes. To be clear, they're $12 per spoke.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Which is very expensive.
Yes.
Once you start adding up how many spokes you have. How many do I have here?
I don't know. You times 24, 48. So your typical setup is 24 now, right? So even if you times 48, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. So basically 50 times 12. That's $600 bucks.
Yeah.
USD, right?
Yeah.
So pretty expensive. No, but to be fair to Berd, if you get a wheel set from them,
it's a lot cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper, right? So it's not going to be materially more expensive than getting a wheel set from a good mainstream brand. So that's one. And I think, but I think the other thing is they're more of a whole. They promote their whole system, right? They have a touring system, which is I think pretty expensive to set up.
It was dope though. We saw at the Taipei Bike Fair that was a very nice system.
Nice but expensive system. And then of course I guess they kind of prefer you to buy the wheel set as a whole.
Yep.
And also they have hubs which are specifically designed for the spokes.
For the spokes, yeah. Correct. So for a regular hub like this, like currently he's running Chris King's, has to be, there's a process to it. It's not lengthy, but I think in the industry you want to keep it a little hush hush because I don't know, that's just what I was told. But there's a burring process that you have to do.
Okay, we can get to that in a second. Let me just finish one final point. 2.8 grams per spoke. Okay, so I mean
that's the highlight.
That's a highlight. So meant to be so it is super light. Meant to give you great compliance. Sorry, I can't give you an opinion on that. But and I think I don't really have any issues with or any concerns around the durability.
It's not even out true yet.
Okay, well,
I just checked it. This isn't out true. Yeah, amazing.
Good. Well, sorry, but the process, and we'll get onto the process because there is a longer process to make sure it comes to you so that it's true.
Yeah.
But when I first got it, we had a conversation, right? I had some concerns because I think there was a little, I mean, the way the crisscrosses, I was a bit concerned.
Whether they would like friction would cause it to snap or anything like that, right?
So I think with steel spokes, you would have less of a concern because it's fairly resistant to that kind of damage.
And most pin fade or whatever not, that's about it.
With carbon spokes, you'd be very worried about that because carbon is not good with.
They can fray.
Yes, and so that's pretty challenging. And then with these, I was initially pretty worried, but I don't see any fraying whatsoever on these. So yeah, very very happy with the spokes.
Money well spent, huh?
I mean, it's a lot of money, but again, with the pain of the wallet. Being very light and that being a very long time ago now. So yes, now it feels like it's money well spent, but definitely didn't feel like it when you first told me the price. But okay, let's talk about the hubs, right? So this is actually something that you probably have a lot more to say than me.
Sure.
Let me just introduce the topic, and then you can get into it, right? So I've got the Chris King R45Ds on them, which is their road disc hubs.
Yep.
Okay. I got them for one reason and one reason alone, hub sound. Okay, that's the only thing I cared about. I wanted the angry bee sound, right? And I wanted everyone to know that I had nice hubs. And that was it.
Right.
I did not consider weight. I did not consider durability. I did not consider ease of servicing. I didn't consider anything. Okay, I just got these hubs purely because I wanted that hub sound. And
do you know how the hub sound comes about?
Please tell me.
So I don't. This is not confirmed by. I didn't do a lot of research on the wheels. It's just from my own knowledge. So I don't know if this is confirmed how they wanted it to be. But my limited mechanical knowledge assumption is because instead of having a direct straight cut gear, they have it helically cut. So it's intended for smoother engagements and all that. But I'm assuming that's how the sound came about to be as well. Similar to DT Swiss, just a lot more poised. Okay. If you know what I mean. Yeah, so they give you that slightly duller version of that DT Swiss ratchet system. Yeah. So
exactly. Well, I mean, I guess it's a couple of factors, right? You've got for a road hub, pretty high not like points of engagement, right? So 45, if I'm not mistaken.
No, 72.
Is it 72?
72.
No, 72 for the mountain bike.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I'm still mountain bike. That's why. But yes, 45. Correct.
So, which if you compare that to your typical setup, I think most will be kind of 24 or around that range.
36 usually. Yeah.
Yeah. So higher points of engagement, and I think just in terms of what you described, the way that it's set up at an angle, and and then it just sounds great. It's fantastic.
Jewelry like finish, like it looks good standing at the display stand. So that's why most people do end up with Chris Kings as well. Yeah.
But how would you, I mean, before we go on and talk further about, I guess I was going to ask you about the comparisons, but why don't you take a step back? You mentioned that there was a process, and I remember this very, very clearly because we were kind of going back and forth on whether or not we could put Berd spokes onto the Chris King hubs. And so initially it didn't sound like it could. And then one day you sent me the greatest news at the time for me, right? Like, oh yes, we can lace them up with Bird's Perk. So how do you actually do it?
So I don't know if it's good to say because it's not an official process, but I myself then had to do a little bit of asking around, and one of the shop that does a lot of Berd in Singapore is Build Wheels. So thankfully we're great friends with them. Delbert taught me a thing or two about what I needed to know how to do it. So I don't know if I'm in a position to teach. I think I one day would like to have him come on and explain the entire process from his point of view as well. Let's keep it at that because it's not official process. I don't want to comment too much about that, but it can work. It can work. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so number one, it's worked for me. But number two, the legal disclaimer here is that it is not officially, supported.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if you do it, it's at your own risk. And then you would have to go to, I guess in Singapore, we can come to you or Build Wheels.
Yep.
In other places, you will have to kind of find a bike mechanic who's willing to learn or a wheel builder who's willing to.
It's not that complicated. I think you can figure it out on your own. It's not difficult. It's just a drilling and burring process. It's just that you have to be a little more careful with how you do it because obviously it's still rope, right? So if you have any complications whatsoever, it could stem lah, and that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you very much for doing that for me. You built my dream wheels.
No problem.
Right? But now let's talk about the hubs a little bit more. And I wanted, because I never actually considered all of the actual important factors for selecting a hub, which is weight, durability, serviceability.
That is the allure of Chris King, right?
Okay,
that you really like craftsmanship.
Okay.
But I don't know, if you didn't compare anything else and you went straight for Chris King, like, why? What was your thought process? Was it really just for the noise and the finish?
It wasn't even for the finish, it was just for the noise.
So you, like for the noise, it's pretty similar to, sorry, like within the same rounds.
Whoa.
within the same realm as DT Swiss ratchet system, right? Because they give the same sort of like ratcheting noise. It's not too far from Chris King, what?
But it's okay. So the DT Swiss, it's a consistent sound, right? As in you, and just keep in mind when I first got these, there weren't a lot of loud road hubs. Right now, I think a lot of people are making louder ones, but when I first got those, only the DT Swiss had a kind of a louder sound, and when you listen to the DT Swiss hub, it's consistent. So it's always the exact same sound as it rotates, right? But Chris King is not, because as it rotates, it's for some reason
loud, soft. It's also due to how you manipulate the grease in there. Yeah. So then again, not official process, but you can use different levels of viscosity of grease to manipulate noise in any hub. So it's something that I love to do. How do I say? Just a little bit more personalization.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your customer, right? Like we didn't have this conversation about me wanting loud hubs. I think you put your standard kind of grease inside. It's not super loud, which is good because you don't want to
be annoying.
Yeah, you don't want to be annoying. But certainly, I've heard of people putting in a legal disclaimer: you shouldn't do this. It's not officially sanctioned. Is that the right word? It's not officially supported, right?
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be putting motor oil or whatever else, right? But I've heard of people who really like loud hubs. They will go and putting a very, very, very light lubricant.
Yep. And even back in the day when I was still BMXing, we would use that 6-paw system, and we'll bend the springs. We'll run dry so that it's the loudest shit you'll hear going down like Hougang Road lah.
Okay. And I think that's really it about the. I mean, we've talked a lot about the wheels. Sorry, guys, but it's it's an interesting and different build, and certainly I think you can take different parts of it, and if you're getting,
it's a really personalized bike. It wasn't one that you kind of like saw online and say, oh, I want that, or like it wasn't one that you kind of took off the shelf. It is everything spec to the T to how you liked it.
Exactly, and it took us a long time.